Okay, hello guys. Can you hear me okay? So this is a really meaningful and interesting experience to just be where I am and not really to know anything about what's going to happen next. And having some thoughts, having some ideas about past or previous experiences, but those really being very, very empty in a sense, very see-through. Where I've been, what I've done, the people that I've known or have met, just in the same way that when I look around and see I'm guessing primarily Taiwanese people here, um, I don't really know who they are. And they're coming and going freely. So they're not looking to me, they're not depending on me, they're not referencing my thoughts to come and go freely or to just be. And in the same way, I noticed that the phenomena or the experiences within the body and experiences within the mind are also like that. They may seem to be or could be seeming to be referencing a personal ego, a personal self. But that's just a seeming. It's very easy to feel that, to see that here and now. Well, there's a friend of mine who has offered to host me here in Taiwan for some time. So I have the chance to to be here and experience that. I'm just waiting for a few moments to get a SIM card here at the airport. I've certainly experienced or taken psychedelics in the past, but now really the the most profound or the most realistic uh, psychedelic experience is just experiencing this as it is, with colors and forms and movement and sounds and everything changing. I think psychedelics, they may have a use case really for some people in particular settings, but mostly people don't need psychedelics. They need community or teachings or guidance in their lives, and they're looking towards having a special experience to fill in that gap or to help with that. I'm not sure what it means. Am I becoming more objective? But I do wish you a very happy birthday. So we learn in psychedelic practice or in spiritual practice, sure, we learn to bless the ground we walk upon. Um, but really, we learn to not identify so much with thoughts, so that we have a thought and we don't identify with that, meaning we don't see that thought as being possessed by ourselves. It's just a thought, and it's something really to be let go of. And when we notice that we're clinging to something, that's what is to be to develop a relationship with that thing that's based in letting go rather than hanging on. Very important. So there's no real force, or there's no real making. There's no real ultimate um, decider in any of this. Are you in line?
No,
For,
no, no.
You're not in line. You're just enjoying.
You're not enjoying. Oh, well, I'm waiting
I
for
hope
my
you.
friend.
I hope you will enjoy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You too.
Thank you. Howdy. And we have to make some kind of choice again and again. So we make a choice depending on the experience or the conditions that arise. So you may find yourself to be peaceful, and you can make a choice to be more at peace, or to stay with peace, or to fuel that peace, or with any, just like that, with any positive emotion. And then the other side of negative emotions, right? We feel anger, or we feel frustration, or we get caught up in really complicated thoughts about ourselves and the world. And that's when we find the stopping in the negative emotions. The awareness of the negative emotions is the stopping point. It means we step back from that justification for continuing to poison ourselves. And then when we learn how to do that, this space opens up of just being, just seeing, just hearing, just being uncomfortable or just being comfortable. We don't have to be so lost in this psychological narrative of ourselves. We talked a little bit about trauma in our live stream from last night, so you might want to go and look at that, Wilbur. But I think that moment by moment, rather than a big story-based idea, is when we decide what kind of life that we want to live. So there's been a lot of moments where I've decided to walk towards spirituality, or walk towards Buddhism, or walk towards meditation, or walk towards mindfulness and detachment. And that has shifted and guided my life, especially taking an interest in generosity and taking interest in the teachings of the Buddha. In the Western America, there's a big culture of colonialism, or cultural imperialism, or a false sense of authority about what we know and what we take to be important. So I was never particularly locked into that Western point of view and narrative, and that led me to have an opportunity to learn about the teachings of the Buddha, and to take in other cultures and societies and traditions that I align more with naturally. So maybe in past lives I was Asian. Maybe in past lives I was an Asian man. Or in past lives I was a little Asian girl. It's very possible. So my life now is very much based in freedom and being in the business of mindfulness and detachment, or being in the business of being a virtuous, attempting to live a virtuous life, which means to not cause harm and to bring benefit. Well, it's not my life, and there's no downsides to that. Hello, Amitofo, ni hao. I just want to get a eSIM or a physical SIM. I get a physical SIM.
Physical thing, okay. 4G or 5G?
4G is okay.
4G, how many days?
30 days.
30 days,
Yeah.
okay. 30天不用排的。Get your passport.
Yeah. Well, I think at least what I've found in my work of, you could say, past life regression or looking into my childhood is, I think if you grow up with a lack of stability and experiencing trauma,
Here, sign.
okay, that it's you likely don't have access to a lot of memories for a good reason. You know, the body had to almost put up a wall because that experience was too difficult or too confusing or whatever. So it's more like bringing that childlike energy or that childlike spirit into this moment, right? Inviting that child to be here with you, and through that being a caretaker for your inner childhood and kind of giving yourself a second childhood.
That's true, thank you. And in here, sign too.
Okay. It's definitely good to be informed about things.
Sign your name and your passport number.
Okay. But you don't have to put too much energy to creating a narrative of your past life. It just is what it is already, so you don't need to form it. But if you are informed by it, then that can be helpful.
Okay, $1,020.
I wouldn't describe it exactly like that, but definitely a wake-up call for something in my psyche to make a change.
Sorry, $1,080. Okay. Yeah, here, 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, $1,080.
Okay. And a lot of the trauma or the intensity that I found in India and kind of worked myself into is
Your receipt and your SIM card.
okay. So I'm all set. I can just put it in there and it'll
Yeah.
work, right? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of that was really based in a very intensive energy of trying, right? Trying to get the enlightenment or trying to understand or trying to develop, trying to work things out. And that energy of trying can be really dangerous, actually. Well, it's dangerous to the ego, so it's going to be dangerous to anyone who's not perfectly, completely enlightened. And the Buddha gives certain guidelines and certain direction about how to go about intensive practice, if you want to call it that. And I was kind of towing the line with some of those guidelines, being surrounded by a lot of people who weren't Buddhist, um, and just going into intensive meditation practice without enough support at that time, spiritual support and spiritual environment. So really a monk is someone who's willing to take up a view that's based on non-discrimination, and also someone whose primary concern is to end suffering. And if you can take up that view or that lifestyle, you could say that you're kind of a real monk. And I realized that was part of what I realized in India, was that the robes and the caricature of myself was maybe not as close to the source as I thought that it was. And yeah, things change. People ask me about why did you decide to not be a monk anymore? There's not really an answer to that, because things just happen. I was a monk for 7 years, now I'm not. But more to the point is that I is just a not. Well, like I said, Brendan, it's the same answer. It's the same situation, that you in the path of non-duality, or in the path of not seeking, or the path of no self realization, you don't have to put too much energy, you don't have to put too much time, you don't have to fight too much to create a ego or an identity. The path, the practice is more the releasing of need to hold on to an identity, or to build an identity, or to have an understanding of an identity, and more how we release that tendency towards those ideas and those thoughts, identity-based thoughts, so that I could maybe be sitting here for 10 hours, or be sitting here until I die, or be sitting here and then someone comes up and slaps me in the face, or gives me $1 million. All of that is realistically possible. Anything is realistically possible, and the greatest realistic is changing. So if we can recognize that that's true, we can release this constant holding on to some idea that we have about ourselves, or our plan, or our mission in life. And you can call it Buddhism, you can call it Buddhism, you can call it Dudism, you can call it just being. And you can also you don't need to call it anything. We don't need to define everything. We don't need to define all the people that we're around. We don't need to define or even describe our experiences necessarily. That it's enough to just experience. And the whys we really find out for ourselves. So it's like, why is it important to take care of ourselves? Why is it important to be a good person? Why is it important to have the spirit of generosity rather than the spirit of selfishness? Well, you find that out through experimentation. And the spiritual path is for those people, let's say, who are interested and open to going another direction besides the direction that was just fed to them by the society, or fed to them by the preamble of the intellectual narrative of themselves and others. And in this way, we can be at home, literally, not figuratively, but literally, we can be at home wherever we are. We can establish a home where we are. And then when we put already into that, it's even nicer, because we take away the narrative of how we got here. We're just here. There's no need for a narrative in it. We are just here. We're already having this experience. Huh. There's a song about that, right? Lonely, I am so lonely. Seems like there's some connection issues here. How is the connection? Is it okay? Audio and video connection? Because we as a people who come from a country or come from a family or have a certain cultural experience, right? We have a limited way to understand others or understand environments according to our past experiences. So how we can go beyond our past experiences and have an experience that is actually not based in our past experiences is to stop relying on the intellectual and conceptual faculty and instead rely on the direct experience, or experiencing with and through, not understanding. And that's fantastic. To be in a state of not understanding, or to be in a state of not grasping.